Hey. All right.
Hello, hello.
Did that work? Are we live?
I think so. I see a
Okay.
big red live in the top right corner here. So
Cool. I don't know if I have to do anything on LinkedIn. Um,
I see a
I
check
think
mark.
I see it on YouTube. So, yeah, anyway, welcome. Do you
Welcome
want
to
to
the very
start?
first
Let's start.
one. Yeah.
Introduce yourself. Like, let's start with that first.
Awesome, awesome. I am Brandon. If you know me already, you know that I wear many hats, but the hat I am wearing today is my community hat. This is a very, very new thing we got going on with Ashley from Cyberdrain here as a community endeavor. And if you can't tell, this is our very first attempt at this, so stick with us here. But as far as introduction to themselves and the tool talk as a concept, I will pass it right back over.
Thank you, Brandon. All right. So, for those of you who don't know me, like Brandon said, I'm Ashley Cooper. My career has been all about connecting systems, connecting processes, connecting tools. And one of the things that I wished that I had when I was getting started was kind of like that shifted paradigm for how we think about our tools and how we think about what we're building. And it's like, I'm never working within just one product. I'm never coming from just one angle. And so sometimes I need those use cases or I need those details that a vendor-led training session might not want you to know or might not share with you or just might not have the priority to deliver. And so this is going to be about celebrating those champions, those people who are building cool stuff, and you want to learn about the tools that you can use to build more cool stuff. And so CIPP was a really natural intro to the product. There's been a lot of different places, like this came up in a conversation across so many different communities. One of the people who's with us, Josh, brought this up in the Tech Degenerates. We have people in our Cyberdrain community talking about it all the time. So this first episode is going to really be about like deep diving into the actual functional use and benefits of CIPP. And so we will have a bunch of different people coming on to chat, community led. So we really want to get the questions going. I'm keeping my ears and eyes on all the different places that people are chatting. You can tag me if you have a question. There's a thread on the Cyberdrain and MSP Geek servers. There's a conversation going on the Tech Degenerates, etc. So yeah, that's it. One of the other things, like we've never done this. I still don't know. I'm not seeing any comments. I'm not sure if people are if it's working or not, but oh yeah, I do see that started live. Yay. Okay. I accidentally started playing something. Sorry about that. Yeah, we'll jump in. One of the things that we'll see, like this is evolving. This is something that we are playing with, like we got silly things going on, like AI to try and make our, let's, how can we make this like a tool time? Maybe there'll be some funny ways that we can integrate that going on there too. But I'm going to stop rambling now. I'm going to let Brandon introduce his two community co-hosts, as well as introduce our hosted guest as well. So who do we got with us today, Brandon?
Awesome. Well, first off, on the community side, we have the always lovely Alden from Alden's Laugh Labs, I believe, is your more personal endeavor there.
Morning. Nice to be here.
Good morning. You're sounding very smooth this morning with that microphone.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hi, I'm Alden, as Brandon said, with Alden's Laugh Lab. Just kind of here to try to make things more understandable and make sure that people feel like they've got a floor to ask the questions that other people haven't realized they want to ask.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Next up, we have Josh over here with a lovely T-shirt. May I add this morning?
Yeah, gotta represent. So what are we doing today? What am I doing here? I mean, I don't know what's going on.
We're just hanging out now. We're going to be going
Perfect.
through CIPP today. And we would like you to show us some of the things that you've been working on in the
Yeah,
platform.
awesome. Yeah, glad to be here. And like Ash said in the beginning, this is something that I talked to Henry over at Tech Degenerates about doing. So I think it is important, and she kind of nailed it. Is everyone uses these tools a little bit differently, or that you might see like a tool and think you need it, but like how do you use it? How does it actually assist your business? How can you use it efficiently? And just having that collaboration of like, hey, this is how I do this thing versus the vendor saying, hey, here's a sandbox and you can do all these things with it, and you just the possibilities are endless. So we're going to try to limit the possibilities and kind of give you some ideas of, hey, this is how we use it, so you can take those things back into your business.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear what you have to share. We do have one more special guest with us today, and they need a little bit of an introduction. They have a very large ego, and I have to stroke it a little bit before they can come on the stage. So we have the always perfect and never wrong, our favorite Dutchman who has made a specific application that we all know and love. We have a Mr. Kelvin, and I will let you say your own last name.
No,
Kelvin,
let's just skip that part. Let's just skip
no,
that part.
No, let's we got to know how you say it.
No, let's not. Let's not.
It doesn't get said. It's silent in Dutch. That's what's great.
Yeah,
exactly.
Silent in Dutch.
All of my last name is silent. Hey everyone, glad to be here.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
So
Hey.
That's it.
tell us, give us a little bit of an intro about CIPP,
Okay.
like beyond the typical one.
So I love talking about this. I love talking about myself, and CIPP is all me. So of course that's no longer the truth. Let's actually give you guys a little bit of a history lesson. About 3.5 years ago now, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I'm very bad at dates. I was talking in MSP Geek, one of the larger MSP communities, and I was talking with my friends about how crappy it is that people aren't exactly, or vendors weren't exactly following the stuff that we were following. I remember one of the largest vendors in our space explicitly saying, our users don't use Office 365. They have no clue what that is. No MSP uses Office 365. And we're talking about 3.5 years ago. We're not talking about 10 years ago when M365 or when BPOS just became M365. We're talking about when everyone was migrating there. They said they don't use it. They don't need management tools. Microsoft does enough. And that got me pretty angry. And that's when I did a little bit of spy-driven development and created CIPP. CIPP was created in about 2-3 weekends and was mainly made just to manage M365 a little bit easier for MSPs. That was the entire purpose of CIPP. I pushed on it. I pushed on it hard. The first month, we had about 100 users. And we just looked in our statistics recently, and we're at 8,000 different MSPs using it these days. 2.5 million managed tenants. That's an insane number. And we still love developing it and actually try to keep the same atmosphere alive, even though we have a bigger team now. We have a team where we have multiple devs working on it full time, and we're still pushing in the same way. CIPP is completely community-led. This is also why you don't see a lot of get a sales demo here messages. We just don't want that. We don't want to be the ones calling you in the middle of the night saying, oh, you should try CIPP. It's really cool. I'd rather just have everyone in the community try it and then tell another MSP about it and another MSP, and that's been going very well. And that's also why we're here. This is a community-based talk. We're here to just make sure that everyone in the community is able to learn what CIPP does, and it doesn't always have to be intro level. I believe that Brandon, Josh, and Alden today are going to show us some more slightly advanced features. I'm not saying that we're immediately super deep diving on something extremely technical, but just more advanced features than simple how do I switch tenants inside of CIPP, which is also pretty cool.
For sure. So I will actually hand things off to our co-hosts here, our guests on the show today, Josh and Alden, to get things started in the platform. Before we go in here, because this is our first live taping, do you guys both have access to the demo instance? Are you guys ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to rock.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
guess I should accept the invite I got, but yes.
Yeah.
And one
So-
thing that I will add, we have like a little bit of stuff that we can go over on our own if there is no questions that are coming in. But if there are any questions, like I said, just tag, post. It doesn't look like all of the LinkedIn ones are coming over into here, so I have that open in a different place. But just tag me if you have a question or if you have something that you want us to walk through, and we'll figure it out from there.
For sure. We want this to be very interactive. So feel free to chime in from the audience, throw virtual tomatoes if you need.
That's good. While we're setting that up, I can kind of give a little background on myself and with CIPP. I absolutely love CIPP, and one of the reasons is, for many reasons, is I learned a lot of this stuff the hard way. I learned how to use GDAP through Lighthouse and try to do this stuff through Lighthouse, and not that there's anything wrong with Lighthouse. It's just not as efficient and nice and pretty as CIPP. But in doing all of that stuff kind of the hard way, figuring all of that out and then going over to like CIPP, and like this was like magic. I'm like, oh, this is so much faster. This is so much easier, so much less cumbersome. It was just like, dude, how do you not use this? We're trying to solve the problems of like is people who maybe haven't done it before. If you're an MSP, I mean, you're going to all of these different Microsoft tenants. You probably have some sort of shared admin, which hopefully isn't a password manager. So you get a ticket. Now you have to go there, grab the username and password, figure out how to store the one-time passwords, and now you're doing shared, and there might be, depending on the audit level, not have the audit trail. Hopefully it does, but you're going in there to do something simple such as assigning a license or creating a user or removing a user. And you have to know where in the admin center to go do this sort of thing. And hey, guess what? It's a Tuesday of the second month, and that means Microsoft changed where this thing is within the admin center. Versus now you have your second ticket, and now you have to go do the whole same thing over. Make sure that you have another incognito because you don't want your cached credentials, things like that. Or you set up CIPP, and you set up the correct GDAP, and you have your employees that are utilizing their own privileged accounts to access this, and you learn one platform, but you still have the ability to go into the admin console and do your things, and it just increases your operational efficiency and the daily lives of your techs that much more. And I think if you've done things the hard way for a while, you really fully appreciate how automated and effective CIPP can be.
Wow, that was deep.
Very cool.
I do want to add in, like, being able to jump between platforms and do things in workflows that were not intended in a way that feels native is amazing.
For sure. Excellent introduction there, Josh. That sums it up very well. And I'll let you just keep rolling if you are in a good spot to share out your screen and show us some of the super cool features of CIPP that you think are valuable for the audience to know. We can get things rolling.
Let me figure out how to do this with this platform. I think I got it.
I will help you navigate that. And then
let's go with this. I think I got it. Let me know. Hey, look at that. It's working. That
Awesome.
is mine, though. I want this one. Cool. All right. So one of the things we do is we do a hardening project for our clients. So making sure that, wait, I think I have this up and going. Let's go. Let's try this again here. Okay, sharing screen window, and let's go to this one. That is the right one. Okay, cool. Now we're in the right one. All right. So one of the things that we do is a Microsoft tenant hardening project for our clients, because as you might know, Microsoft is not secure by default. Just because you get the license doesn't mean things are automatically configured. So we have a pretty lengthy hardening project in which we're, turning things off or setting certain things up, like conditional access policies or exchange rules, things like that. So what we've really done is automated this. We had one of our project engineers as an ex-Microsoft employee, so he definitely knows his way around the admin center and what, things to push. But these projects were taking 50 to 20 to hours, and half of that, I would say 10 to 15 hours of that is just configuring the things and taking the screenshots and doing that. So what we've done is we have the templates because we're allowed to do that with CIPP. So we took one of our tenants that we did have the hardening on it, and we're like, okay, well, we use this conditional access policy for everybody. So we're going to templatize it and then obviously make adjustments as needed. So to do that, under tenant administration, you go to CA templates to see which ones you have. But if you want to enforce it, so if I'm hardening this Contoso here, you just tenant administration, CA policies, and you deploy conditional access policy up here. It'll automatically select your tenant, and then you choose which template you're doing. So if we're going to block legacy auth, if we're going to require MFA, we're doing all of these. So we just select, one of these, and I'm assuming I'm not going to break anything with that, but you're able to see anything that it does. And then you can choose, what options that you want. You can have it to where it applies to all users, or just, how it goes. Or if you don't want it to break anything, you just set to report only, and then you can verify, within your tenant that it's good. But, right here, bam, it's deployed. And now we do that for 4 or 5 conditional access policies. Now, this one doesn't have the license, but assuming it did, you're able to say, you're able to deploy these like very, very quickly, right? So you can see how, if you've ever set up a conditional access policy, you're setting up 5 of them. This is much faster. Taking it a step further, now we go into Intune policies, and these are quite cumbersome to set up. So looking at configuration and compliance policies, same sort of thing. You can see what is applied. And assuming because this doesn't have the licensing, it probably
I believe it actually has an Intune license, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. So with here you have
switch to another tenant, which is 7NGN, which has all licensing.
Let's go through that. Cool.
Yeah. No.
All right.
So as you can
So
see, that was a pretty quick tenant switch, right? That is something that is unbelievably fast compared to Microsoft. It's a little piece of the basic functionality, but it just allows you to just flip through stuff so easily. Sorry, I'm very proud about my tool, and I should shut up. I'm a guest here. Just let you guys show it off. Hey, I do have one question. In your hardening project, do you apply these as one-offs, or do you apply them as standards?
So it's mixed. We have some that are standards, the ones that don't change, the ones that are consistent. Those are going to be the standards, but some of these, they are some variables that go in with them. So some of those that, some of them we're going to do manually. So I would say, kind of 50-50. So I will, we'll save standards for later. I don't want to dominate the conversation, so I'll save that for either Brandon or Alden to show. But we'll show you the standards. But in any case, going through like our MDM policies, so your configure compliance, and you have your drop down. Boom, you go here and then choose how you want it to go at next step, and then submit. And now we can just go down the line. So you see super quick. Now let's go back and let's do another one here. Bam, bam, done. And it literally is, that quick. And, we're just going to ignore because I don't know what these technically are, but, here's another one.
So fair warning about this demo environment, it's running a development version of CIPP. So if something doesn't work, it's often that we've just modified something in our dev environment, or it doesn't have a license that's available, or these kind of things.
So again, if you've ever had to actually build Intune policies, they are very cumbersome to go through. Some of them have 3-4 pages of like options that you need to choose from. And if you're doing those manually, I mean, that it can take quite a bit. There's also the opportunity for human error in there. Like if you're going through and you maybe forget to hit this check mark, or you mark this versus no. I mean, this is like, it's automated. So you set it once and then you just push it through and do the verification. So very, very quickly, very, very quick on these. You can also do the same thing. So in Tune, we covered conditional access policy. And then lastly, you can do some sort of, you can do some of this within transport rules as well. So if you have connectors that you're setting up, depending on like if you have a third-party spam filter, they have a connector. If you have any transport rules, such as you want to delay, block external auto forwarding, that's already there. So again, all the templates that you would need here. So you harden one environment and now you have it and you're able to very quickly, very quickly harden these. I mean, we legitly saved 10 to 15 hours on our hardening project just by doing this.
That's crazy.
That is an absolute insane amount of time savings. It's absolutely crazy. There are some questions coming in through chat, and I'm just going to ask them, and then anyone could show them off. One of the questions that came in, and I want to answer these myself, which is very hard. So that's why I'm asking you. So I'm not answering them myself, because I mean, I made this stuff. Someone asked, is it possible to create policy packs or groups to deploy multiple at once? In some cases, there might be 50 policies to deploy. Does anyone want to answer that?
Yeah, I can take that one here. So CIPP has a awesome feature called standards. And let me share my screen out and I will show y'all how that looks. I believe we are sharing this one. All right, and
let me
if I
just
click
build it up.
this. Hang on, we're getting there. Add to stage. Hey, there we go. Okay, cool. So this is CIPP, as I'm sure you've all been aware. If you haven't gotten that so far, pay attention.
Wait, why is it so blinding? It's very bright.
Sorry to flashbang everyone, going from dark mode to light mode, but light mode looks a little bit better on the stream, I think. So let's go ahead and say, okay, we have a large number of policies to push through here. We have Intune policies, we have conditional access policies, we have group templates. Maybe we have dynamic group rules that we want to apply to different customers. So we could go through and we could deploy them one by one, which would be good for a project basis where we want to just selectively apply things, especially if they're going to be very impactful to the tenant. We want to make sure we're not just hitting them all at once. But what we could also do is go down to tenant administration, standards, and standards here. And this is going to allow us to build out a whole bunch of templates for different things we want to apply to the tenant. So we'll go ahead and click add template here. We'll say super cool standard. If I can type behind my microphone here, we'll go ahead and say we'll just apply this to all tenants. And then we'll go ahead and start adding some standards to the template. There are a lot of these, over 100 standards, and this can allow you to baseline the bulk of a tenant just out of the gate. And the really cool thing is when you onboard a customer, this is going to run on a schedule to not only make them compliant initially, but keep them compliant. So if you have a set of baseline standards that you want every single customer in your environment to adhere to, you're able to set these up. And once you onboard the customer through the GDAP onboarding in CIPP, just wait. That's it. Give it some time. It'll go through. As long as the tenant is licensed for the standards you're applying, then you're good to go at that point. But I want to focus specifically on the policy pack question. So all the way at the bottom here, we have some options for Intune templates, conditional access templates. So let's go ahead and add these here. Awesome. Conditional access. So let's go ahead. We want to remediate, which is going to say, if I'm not compliant, make me compliant. And we're going to add one for require MFA for all users. Set to enabled. All right, let's add another one. Let's go ahead and build out another one for blocking legacy authentication. Enabled. Cool. Let's add one more. We'll add in reauthentication on sign-in risk. That's another good one to have set to enabled. We'll set that there. Intune templates. Let's go ahead and set those up too. Go ahead and remediate on those. And we'll go ahead and set up a default update ring assigned to all devices. Done. Next one here. Remediate. We'll automatically configure Outlook. And that's it.
Are you telling me that right now you're configuring 5 different policies in one go?
In one go.
That is miraculous.
It is.
The guy that made this should get a medal.
I think he should. He should be considered one of the most valuable partners for Microsoft, I think. But yeah, you can build out any number of these. Once we are configured, we'll go ahead and save template, and we're good to go. Now, the really cool thing is you can have multiple of these. So what we do is we'll progressively step up users through here. When you're looking at these, especially for conditional access, but when you're going through the normal standards, you'll notice that they're classified as low impact, medium impact, and high impact. Low impact being typically things that are going to be more for your management, things like turning on logs, changing things that may make things available in the portals, but you're not going to cause too much interruption to end users. Medium is going to be, okay, hey, hang on here. We're going to potentially have some changes to what users are used to seeing here. These are things like turning off SMTP authentication for a tenant. And of course, high impact standards are going to be, this is going to change, and it may be a little bit difficult to change back from within CIPP. Things like enabling security defaults, disabling specific MFA methods, those sorts of things. So when we're onboarding a customer, we want some of these medium high impacts, but we may not want to throw them all at once, all on the same customer. That might be a little bit tricky for a help desk team to sort through. So we can have an initial baseline standard set that sets most of the low impact ones. We'll add in the tenant that we just onboarded to that standard set. Then we'll have the next one. That'll be things like turning off the medium impact things, turning off SMTP authentication on the tenant, starting to deploy out some of our Intune policies and our conditional access policies. And then lastly, for our full hardening, we can go through and start aligning it with things like certain frameworks. We don't have all of the framework options on here, but you have a lot of them. So we can go through and start saying, okay, we can use this with a single click to get a tenant baselined up to a large number of the CIS 365 foundational benchmark options on here. And some of these you can even see are tagged with CIS.
I do like to throw out though the low impact one where you're enabling the phishing protection via branding CSS. It's a fantastic one, but that one is not low. It can might not be low impact because I decided to push that on a Friday, not realizing that how we have our VPN configured uses Microsoft authentication. And over the weekend got I had quite a few calls from clients saying, why does this say I'm trying to connect to the VPN? Why does it say this is a phishing site? And had to figure out how to backtrack that pretty quickly. So I would be careful with that one.
Yeah, it's a really good point because yes, it is low impact in general, but each environment is always different. I mean, even setting the context emails could be something high impact. Like for example, if you set them to the wrong email address, it could have a huge impact. You should always, it is a rough estimate of the impact it has on an average environment. But if, like Josh said, you have a VPN that I think we found that it replaces the URL or something somewhere, and that's what caused it to trigger. Then yeah, it'll have more impact than that. So be careful with that and always make your own assessment. One very cool thing that maybe Brandon could pull up right now is standards.cip.app.
I was just going to say, hey, Brandon, I wonder if there's a way for people who aren't logged into CIPP to see some of this.
Of course,
so sorry. Am I stealing the show?
No, you go for it. Explain it all out.
So on this website, you actually see a direct interface of every standard that is in the production version of CIPP right this moment. And that's very cool because you're able to just view what the actual commands are that it executes. If you, for example, add allowed domain to spoof intelligence, could you open that one up, Brandon? Could you pop that open? You'll see like, hey, what are the allowed domain? What is the actual PowerShell equivalent that it executes? What are the required parameters? And because it's PowerShell, you can also just go into the CIPP API and see if it's executing the stuff that you want it to be executing. So it's one of those wonderful things that we always try to make the tool as open to system administrators as possible, not the devs.
Awesome. Yeah. Definitely recommend people walk through here. And if you are like Josh and you prefer dark mode, there's a little toggle up here that'll change that page for you.
What, so. You mean like a normal human being?
Like a normal person. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and find Mendy after this call, and we'll shake hands on our usage of light mode, and then I'll feel a bit better about myself. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. And it's really that easy to go through here and set these up. And some of these too, like set contact emails, we can go ahead and set specific options on here. So if we wanted to just forward all of our help desk emails to an outsourced help desk, like helpdesk@cyberdrain.com, then we can go ahead and set that up here. So whenever our customers need help, then we don't have to worry about it.
Please don't.
No tickets, no problems. Am I right? But yes, as Josh said, of course, make sure that you know you're doing it here. It's always good to have a test tenant. Technically, everyone has a test tenant, but not all of them are separate from production. As much as I respect the push to prod Fridays, it may be good to run through and make sure that we can evaluate the impact here. And one of the benefits of using standards.cip is not only is it open and free, you can see the PowerShell equivalent. A lot of people feel a lot more safe when they're able to see specifically what this is doing. So I won't spend too much time on alerts here.
I was going to say, speaking of feeling safe, what are some other ways that CIPP can make us feel safe? Alden, can you take that?
Yeah,
sure. So in CIPP, I mean, kind of one of the big catches for if people are doing something silly would be, catching it, consolidating it, and being able to act on it quickly. And I am buying time while my browser decides to work. Give me just a moment here.
While we're waiting for Alden, is everyone having fun so far? If you're in chat right now, leave a comment if you're having fun or not. Leave that in chat everywhere. You can also talk in Discord, LinkedIn, YouTube. What other places are we live? My YouTube, my personal YouTube, we're live there too. Leave a couple of fun comments.
One LinkedIn.
Yeah.
2, 3, any amount of Discords.
And of course, remember that you should subscribe to the MSP Tool Talk on YouTube.
Ooh, I like that crawler at the bottom.
Pretty, isn't it? I worked hard on that.
It's as pretty as Kelvin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love being called pretty.
So
Kelvin.
Going through, let's set the stage here for Alden while he's pulling this up. Let's say that we're a co-managed. So Alden is my MSP, and I am the IT manager of the tenant that Alden is doing MSP. And now Alden makes all of these standards and these changes, but I'm the IT guy, and I'm like, you know what, this is my environment. I don't like this, or you know what, I'm just going to change this because I know what I'm doing, even though I might not actually know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. Which, hey, our company goal is we need to meet CIS guidelines with our tenant. And I just went through and I changed some of these things. So if Alden is really kind of in charge of helping us maintain that CIS standard, how is he going to know if I change these, or what happens if I change some of the settings in here?
And boy, oh boy, do I have the way to show you how to do that. I want to assume that, hey, there's my screen. Wonderful. All right, so here kind of in the alert configuration, I'm going to go over, there's two types of alerts. We've got the audit logs where CIPP kind of sits actually in your tenants, your clients, and reads through their logs in real time and parses them in real time. And it's amazing because you get results, as fast as you'd expect them, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, depending on how many crazy things you're doing at a time. It's Microsoft. But, there's a slew of built-in things that CIPP is able to sniff for. So things like a new inbox rule created that forwards emails to the RSS feeds folder. I don't know about you, Josh, but I've seen this one enough times that this is like a everything is wrong type deal.
Yep. That's what we call a smoking gun. Now we do offer MDR services for clients when it comes to this, but if a client isn't on our more of advanced MDR yet, this is one. I mean, this alert is something that's on every tenant, and I can't count the amount of times that it's saved. Even when we're onboarding a client, one of the first things that we do is enroll them into CIPP. So even before we get some of the tools deployed, they're at least into CIPP, which then gives us these alerts. The best case I have on this is we enrolled a client and we caught a business email compromise on day 2 of the engagement. Our onboarding process is usually a 4-week. We have a very long task, so we run it as a project, and our tools are usually not deployed until week 3 or 4. But CIPP is kind of one of the first things that we get them enrolled in, so we get a lay of the land. But because we have the alerting on it, we're able to catch that business email compromise on day 2, and it was a CEO's email too. So huge win. Please use this. This is your smoking gun. If there is something forwarding to the RSS folder, no one is using that. Like, that is raise the alarm, all hands on deck. Like, I cannot, this is, if you use CIPP for one thing, this is what it needs to be.
I would say that the phishing CSS is my thing that you should be using it for. But I mean, this is all like the RSS feeds folder. That's a honeypot, anyways. I'm sure
I
Microsoft
love.
is using it as a honeypot.
I absolutely love how passionate you guys are about this. It's so
Although,
cool.
although the RSS feeds folder is also really good if you don't want to delete things from your recycle bin, because we all know that the recycle bin is a
Stop
spare
that.
folder that
Stop that.
The
Stop
recycle
that.
bin is where you put all the important emails you need to get back to in 6 months, right?
the other fun ones.
Producer, could you mute Alden and Brandon, please?
the other really good alert built into the auto log alerts that you don't get natively through Microsoft, and I am kind of jumping to that, unfortunately, is the VPN proxy anonymizer, which also, as Josh said earlier, is low impact for most, but for some this is huge. So that would be one where I wouldn't be doing a BEC remediation immediately. Personally, I would just be generating an alert and maybe doing something with a different tool in the back end to try to consolidate those and ensure that it's that the anonymizer, the proxy, is a known good one. However you spin that, but again, this is a crazy. It's a very powerful tool for detecting things that you wouldn't typically be able to find, but also you may not even know to look for them. You may not know that you got some people doing shadow IT stuff logging in from Timbuktu. You got to figure that one out with your clients.
So I'm just interjecting here because I said I'd be the guy responsible for questions and stuff. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me, but my browser is currently stuck.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Awesome. So Game T just asked, what's your opinion on the baseline features coming to Lighthouse soon? I'd love you guys to answer that, because if I'm going to answer it, I'm going to be biased as hell.
I think it is a good thing because it is extending more controls to more MSPs. I also think that CIPP has spent a lot of time developing their standards to be in a more comprehensive way that Microsoft may not be able to supply fully in their initial release of what they are providing. I don't ever think other platforms adding features is necessarily a bad thing, but I think it is also important to evaluate which platforms has the most comprehensive set.
Yep, I would actually say if you're knowledgeable with Lighthouse and you utilize it, it can be used in addition to CIPP. Now, there was at some point that this has been fixed now, but there was at some point where a baseline was available in Lighthouse that wasn't available in CIPP. So we would use CIPP to deploy a lot of the policies and everything, but there was a handful of Intune ones that weren't able to be pushed with CIPP, and I had to use the baselines from Lighthouse to push. So again, and I know Kelvin has said this, but I'll say it for him. This isn't a CIPP versus Lighthouse. Kelvin works with the Lighthouse team very closely. He isn't bashing them in any way, shape, or form. And we're not saying that, CIPP is better or anything. It's just another tool that you can use. So, anything that, Microsoft has to be available, great, awesome. I prefer the CIPP interface. Even you can do some of the baselines with Lighthouse. It is a little bit more difficult to do. There's a little bit more learning curve to it, but it's definitely not a bad thing that they're adding more functionality to it.
Exactly. So I shouldn't be answering the questions myself because I'm biased as hell, and every answer will sound biased, but this might not, because please go check out Lighthouse. Please do. Because they are working very hard to create functionality for MSPs, and that's very rare at Microsoft, that they're specifically dedicating time to MSPs. Please check it out, and if you are able to use it side by side, that's absolutely amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Do it. It's just another tool in your arsenal that might help you get more secure or help support your clients better. That's the only thing I'm after.
Yeah, and Kelvin, I believe there are some features of CIPP that utilize Lighthouse API. Is that correct?
The universal search on the dashboard that searches every single tenant for a specific username or a specific group, that kind of stuff, uses the Lighthouse APIs. Microsoft works very closely with us to create specific APIs just for CIPP and then implement them in Lighthouse later on if they turn out to be tested well. So we have a very symbiotic relationship, I guess you could say.
There was another.
Oh,
I was just going to say there was another question that
there
had
was another
came
question
through.
that came up, and it's one that I actually had that question.
Alden.
I can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Remove participant from stage.
Come back up. Alden, what's your question?
Oh, I actually don't know the answer to this one, and I'm scared to ask the question. So I appreciate the person in LinkedIn that asked it.
The one that I posted in chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
How? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say let's get to that question. I don't want to squirrel away from what we were doing. I know that you were going to be showing something, and then Josh was going to be adding on to that. So let's get through that. Let's circle back with the question, and then there's another one that we can go over.
I do want to pass this to Josh here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, good segue. So there is another. You see at the top of Alden's screen there was another set of alerts called scripted CIPP alerts. And Josh, I would love for you to share more about what those are and how they may work alongside and do some things that the audit log alerts may not be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me go ahead and present my screen again. There we go. So what Alden was showing us was the audit log alerts, which you can see here. There's things that are happening. The scripted CIPP alerts are going to be a little bit different. So these are things that can kind of help with the management of your tenant, or in the case like I gave, where hey, you're co-managing and these things happen, where I might turn off MFA on an account for whatever reason, or hey, mailbox quota, again, it could be used like, hey, this person's mailbox is getting 95%, so it allows us to be more proactive, or your licenses are expiring, or other things like unused license, overused license, overutilization, application secrets, which is a really great one. These things here for Intune enrollment, things like that. So these are things that will help you manage proactive these tenants, so that way you're able to fix issues before they arise. I do really like, when again you can kind of come in and you're baselining these, like you can kind of get an example of where a tenant might be if you bring them in here and you're alerting on these sort of things like that. But just more options for this alert on well. So you go through these and you're like, hey, that would be useful to know, or this would be useful, versus having the person who, like, for example, the mailbox one, if all of a sudden they can't send email, and like, wouldn't it be nice to solve that before it breaks? But I do actually want to go in a little bit different direction, building off of Alden's, hey, let's say that the RSS feed, we're going to do a business email compromise remediate. What does that mean? What does that do? So I kind of want to go over the features of this, because this is, again, very powerful as well. A business email compromise is what a BEC stands for. And from the security world, that's probably going to be the most common incident that you're going to face. And they can be very, very, very bad. The whole goal of them is usually financial gain, but you can think about things like if they come in and they steal a inbox, usually the threat actor's in there and they're going to see, hey, does this person do anything with invoicing? Does any money move for this account? And kind of very quickly determine, okay, maybe not. So I'm going to use this account to blast out thousands of other emails to try to get into other email compromises. Well, if that 1,000 emails goes out to that entire contact list, well, now you as a company need to have a business decision on how do we contact that? Like, do we say it's a security event? What regulatory requirements do we have around that? What kind of reputation does that look like for us to have? So we want to be able to prevent it from happening. So if they do get into these, let's stop it before any of this bad things can happen. So within here, there's a lot of really cool tools that we're able to do from the business email compromise, as well as the automatic remediation. So looking into, let's look at a licensed user here. Hopefully this is one. We can do the view user. You see all of these features definitely available for you, but there's this compromise remediation button where it'll actually load data and analyze things like the last login dates, the email rules. So if this determines, kind of helping you with that compromise, and then you can kind of remediate, and you'll able to see you're blocking the user sign on to resetting the passwords, you're disconnecting every current session, you're removing all of those MFA, you're disabling those inboxes. So again, very quickly able to remediate these, and you can also download those reports. So this is another fantastic feature if you're doing these sort of things at your MSP in response to email compromises.
Awesome. So one thing I want to touch on as well is we've talked a little bit about setting up alerts, but where exactly do they go? And I have this set up on my stage so I can get this going. And then we will start to sort of wrap things up here after that. If you guys have any other questions, please drop them in the chats now so we can have some time to get to them at the end. But let me go ahead and pick the right window here to share out. And peer pressure works because I am now in dark mode.
It's so much better looking.
I love peer pressure.
So we are in the CIPP settings, and we are able to send notifications to a few different places. And first off, we'll start with email addresses and webhooks. So email addresses, many people will set this here to their help desk email user or an individual who isn't responsible for the CIPP platform, so they can start getting these alerts. These are going to be delivered out of the alerts you set in standards, the alerts you set in the alert policies, or any sort of logs out of CIPP that you want to receive alerts from as well here. Additionally, if you have an RPA platform like Roost or Power Automate or anything that can receive webhooks, you can also have a webhook URL put in here too, and it will send formatted JSON packages with information about the alert that is being triggered and why it's being triggered, on which tenant and which service principal it is. I know personally at our MSP, we have a method in Roost to ingest these alerts, automatically triage them, and then put them on the right board for dispatch as they come in to collect them all together. You have a few buttons down here as well too, so we can go to submit it, or we can send a test alert. One thing to know about the test alerts is it does happen on a schedule. One of the more frequent questions, and Kelvin, correct me if I'm wrong here, did we change that?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Just
Awesome.
this release or the one previous to this, test alerts are now immediately shipped unless you have offloading enabled.
Awesome. Don't you love active development cycles?
Yeah. So the moment you hit send test alert, you actually get a choice on what type of alert you want to. So you can say, I want just to write to the logbook to see if that's going well. I just want to send the email, or I just want to send the webhook now. It's a single button right there, send test alert. It's very obvious. It's meant to test as much as possible. So feel free to hit confirm 100 times and see what happens.
Request failed because we are in a test environment. But
the test environment does not have email nor webhooks enabled on purpose.
On purpose.
Because it might have happened that I received 7 million emails one day. Might have happened.
Maybe, hypothetically. We do also have a few other locations that we can ship these to as well. If you may have noticed in the alerts configuration page, there was an option for send to PSA. And in our integrations page, look at all of these cool logos. One of them being Halo PSA. So for anyone who uses Halo here, we are able to go through, map your tenants, and start shipping alerts directly into the PSA, and then start tying them to customers in Halo PSA under tenant mapping. We do have some other integrations here as well. You can open up the CIPP API to make your own API calls against the backend, which is also very useful if you're using an RPA platform. You can add documentation to NinjaOne and Hoodoo. You're able to send license counts and create tickets from Gradient. Manage your CSP licensing from SureWeb. That's a fairly new one here as well. Some password management security things here to send password links securely from Password Pusher, and then scan tenants for compromised credentials that have been pwned. And then a few more backend type ones here. If you want to protect your self-hosted instance behind a Cloudflare tunnel, you're able to set that up here as well. And then you can also manage repositories on GitHub from CIPP as well for the community repositories feature. So
and
we have
while you're on that point, on the topic of GitHub and on the topic of community, one thing that I wanted to call out, somebody asked in chat about how you can contribute. So the thing about our docs, actually, if you were to just go to like docs.cip.app and pull that up, it's a front-end documentation platform called Gitbook that actually just runs on GitHub on the back end. So if you see that little button where it says edit on GitHub, there is, this is public repo that anybody can contribute to. One of the cool things that I want to do for one of our next Tool Talk sessions, and I've been talking with GitHub about this as well, is like this concept of like bringing more of that accessible enablement to that business level where like curious but capable GitHub edition, like, hey, how do you make a PR? How do you contribute to documentation? So we'll be doing one of those next, and I'll make sure to highlight specifically how on the documentation side, but really simply at a high level, if you're familiar at all, you can fork. It's on the CIPP repo. It's in its own branch, much to one of our community members' favorite. It's their favorite thing, but you can fork that over and make recommendations and changes and push PRs without even needing to fork it right from there. So we'll show some of that off.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and circle us back around real quick, and we'll end up back on GitHub, I promise. One of the things that we saw here was community repositories, and that is something fairly new to the platform that I want to show off here. So in the Tools tab, we have community repos, and we were talking a lot about templates. Now, you can definitely go into your own customer tenants or test tenants and clone templates out of there for Intune policies, conditional access, and others. But you can also grab these JSON files off of people's GitHub repositories that they will share out to the community. One of them being conditional access baselines, and another one being Open Intune baselines, and of course the CIPP templates. Now, Open Intune baseline is super cool because it helps pre-configure a lot of the baseline settings that you need for CIS Windows benchmarks, Essential 8s, Microsoft best practices. So once you're in CIPP, we can go ahead and say, let's go ahead and view the templates available here. This is going to reach into that GitHub repository and pull out all the different JSON files that you need to see for things like Mac OS protection, baseline, bring your own device app protection policies and whatnot. So not only are you able to apply these standards here from these repositories, you can also create your own community repositories and share them in the CIPP communities, one of which being the CyberDrain Discord. Ashley, I will task you if you are able to drop a link to join the Discord in the various chats we have here. That would be an awesome thing to share. Speaking of community, though, CIPP is open source. And as part of being open source, anyone is able to contribute to the platform here. So if you ever want to look behind the scenes as far as what is running in the background, how it works, or there is something that you just wish was a feature but wasn't, you're able to go through and help us contribute to development here for the platform. So the API and the front end is fully accessible for you to view through. Kelvin, do you want to talk a little bit about how on the back end things are structured and how people can best contribute?
Oh my God, I have no clue. Of course, I'm joking. It's all that's one of the most simple things that we've tried to focus on. CIPP is a tool meant for system administrators, and we wanted to make it open source for system administrators, not for hardcore devs. Yeah, the front end, and this is going to sound scary as hell if you're a sysadmin. The front end is React plus Next.js plus Node, and yeah, that sounds really creepy. Actually, it just means we're using a JavaScript framework to build everything on the front end, and most of the changes that people need to make aren't even on the front end. There are two specific GitHub repositories, one called CIPP, one called CIPP API. CIPP API is where all the actual magic happens. It is a PowerShell module-based API. So as long as you know PowerShell, you can pretty much do anything you want in that repository. You can go check the files. You can say, oh, this doesn't do exactly what I need it to do, and change it for yourself. Or you can commit changes to the main repo saying like, oh, hey, I have this one standard that is really cool. For example, disabling MFA for all users, and I want to add it. And then you can submit that pull request to us. And I can deny it because it will contain a insecure solution. But if you make secure solutions, then absolutely, we'll accept any PR there is.
Awesome. Yeah, so feel free to poke through here. And I know a lot of sysadmins are very familiar with PowerShell already, so this could be a great way to learn more of how function app scripting works on a scale that people have already figured out for you. So we have about 5 minutes left here. I'm going to hand it back to any questions that people may have. Ashley, have we had anything come through on LinkedIn or YouTube that has not been addressed yet?
We did, but all of a sudden now things are starting to come through in there. I had to go searching everywhere. There was a few things. Let's just rapid fire. Tell me whether we addressed them. Tracy asked, is there a way to exclude anything from the scripting alert alerts, aka we know that there is a client with, say, 90% of SharePoint. Can we exclude that, or would we have to adjust the alerting?
I can take that. You can just exclude the tenant from that standard. That's it.
Yep.
My suggestion is to always select all tenants and then create exclusions, either by groups or by selecting specific tenants. And that way you work on your alerts. Because if you ever add a tenant, you don't want it to be excluded from your new alerts. So you want it to be automatically included, and you just use groups to manage that. So that's one way to do that. You select the specific alert and exclude them from there.
Another question for you: does the I have been pwned integration work on self-hosted tenants?
Yes, absolutely. You just have to get your own API key. Hosted benefit is that you get a free key. You don't have to enter it for hosted tenants. Self-hosted, you have to get a key. You can get the cheapest key available. It just takes really long for all of your data to populate if you do. I'm talking about weeks.
And I think there was one more here. 1 second. Somebody was asking about how do we test the Halo PSA integration for alerts.
Integration, it is one and the same. So if you select the webhook button, it will automatically launch a PSA integration test thing.
And there's also, for testing the API credentials, a little test button here as well.
A big old test button, yes.
Cool. I
Awesome.
think that was the questions. We're 3 minutes left, so
we solved all the world's problems. Look at us.
And the streaming, the only problem I think that I noticed was that the comments weren't syncing through until just now. Gary wants to know, or he's slip APIs where Kelvin hides his code.
Gary wants to know this, and that is on the roadmap, Gary. Expected in the next 2 weeks.
If someone is a user of CIPP and wants to submit a request for a feature, let's say, Kelvin, what is the process for them to do that?
So we allow feature requests from our paying users, our sponsors. If you're not a paying user, your feature request will currently be closed. But you can go to github.com/Kelvin Tegelaar/CIPP, so where you forked the repository or where you subscribe to the sponsorship, and then go to the Issues tab. If you click on Create New Issue, you'll have a button, Feature Request. You fill in the form, and we add the feature.
And then somebody else was asking, I didn't ask permission to share this. I'm just going to share it because it's something that I've been playing with. And we will be bringing some of these things over the same way that we did with the standards.cip.app. There we go. Thank you. But this is on my blog. I'll share the link out. But it was me showing how easy it is to access JSON data simply by giving it some front end information, right? And so we've got our standards the same way that you see on standards.cip.app. But there's a lot of different things that we've got access to here. This license helper is one that that I most recently added. So, it doesn't even show you the URL that we're in. That's kind of neat. I'm going to post a comment here so that you guys can see that. And then that hopefully goes out everywhere as Kelvin. It does. We were having issues with YouTube. So yeah, that's a fun little sneak peek at something. I almost pressed leave studio.
Ooh, be careful.
That would have been funny.
Richard McDonald is asking, is there a way to use CIPP to manage our internal tenant? Could anyone answer that?
There is, but you have to be very careful because, again, you have admin level access to it. So depending on how your internal, hopefully you're using privileged accounts and things like that. But for us, if I were to have ours internally, that means our service desk is able to manage our own tenant, and that's not advisable. But Kelvin does have some ways to do that. It's just a little tricky, and you have to really be aware of access permissions and things like that. So check the
Exactly.
docs, read the docs.
It's in the docs, but be careful, just like Josh said. Josh is exactly right here. There are some caveats. Make sure you make a custom role so not everyone is able to access your tenant. Just make sure to completely follow the document that is in there. It's called I want to add my own tenant. That's the name of the doc.
Awesome.
All right.
Well,
we have
are
to drop
just out of
now. We're
time.
late. Yeah.
Yep.
No
thank you
people have
to
go.
Kelvin, Alden, Josh for coming on the show today. Thank everyone for attending the very first Tool Talk episode. Hopefully we are going to be growing alongside with you, and we have earned your continued viewership. Ashley, anything you want to play us out with?
Thank you. And stay tuned.
Awesome. Everyone have a great
Bye.
day today.